Hello everyone, Nicholas there here with you again, another Ableton tutorial. And what are we looking at today? Well, today I want to look at a quick tip, a quick idea to do with granular synthesis. Granular synthesis is incredibly powerful, but and I'm not going to go into the whole of it here. But essentially what we're doing is cutting up a piece of audio into tiny little chunks and then reassembling it. We can use it to create sort of cloud textures. We can use it to sort of robotify vocal effects. What I want to look at today is using granular synthesis to create a texture that follows a harmonic progression. So it's sort of, instead of just slapping a reverb on something, which is well and good, this technique allows us to use harmonic information, melodic information, to create a texture that follows that information, but isn't just slapping a reverb on it. So it sounds a bit more involved, a bit more depth, a bit more alive. So in the background here, you hear a thing that I wrote some little time ago. For strings. It's a string quartet thing, it's a loop, it follows this harmonic progression, it's got some blah 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 blah, you know what happens. Okay, so let's press stop on that, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find sort of one loop of this progression. I can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's sort of 6 loops. I'm just going to take this second loop here. Don't have to be too precise on this. I'm going to take it from there. And again, chopping it there. I'm chopping it on the bar lines to make my job a bit easier, but it doesn't really matter with this technique. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to Command J, consolidate that, turn that into one piece of audio. So that's now that entire piece of audio. Now what I'm going to do over here in Ableton's packs, I'm still on Ableton 11 with this tutorial. I have upgraded to 12. It's worth it. Ableton 12 has Granulator 3, but for this we're going to use Granulator 2, which is with Ableton 11. So I'm just going to drag Granulator 2 onto a new pack, onto a new track, creates its own MIDI track, and it looks like that. Now simply I'm going to drag and drop this piece of audio into Granulator. This is what you can do. Of course, with any piece of audio, with drums, with singing, with vocals, it works with anything. Just drag and drop. Now, I'm going to create a MIDI region that is the same length as that piece of audio. So I've just highlighted it. This is also why I chopped it on the bar line instead of being super precise. So Shift Command M creates a MIDI region. And I'm going to just create one note at C3 that plays back all the way through that that piece of MIDI. So I'm just going to press legato and boom, there we have one MIDI note. I choose C3 because that plays it back at the original pitch. There's the same pitch as the original recording. In that way, the granular synthesizer functions a little bit like a sampler. C3 is sort of playing back at the original pitch, unless you tell it to do otherwise. So let's, for now, see what that sounds like. Haha! It sounds like a CD that's skipping, but we can hear that that's doing what that's supposed to do. So now if we take a look at Granulator and see what that is actually doing, you can see that it's just playing this little sample from right in the middle of this whole file. Now, there's all sorts of ways that I can control this sample. The grain size over here controls how long or how short each of these individual grain slices are. We can change the shape, so we can have like more of a full, well, obviously a rise, so it sounds a little bit more like things being placed in reverse, or a noise shape. But for this, we're going to use just a standard shape. We can control the. You can see it changing the size and all these sorts of things. Now, what we're going to be really concerned about today is the file position. So you see that as I change the file position, it's moving the playhead here. It's moving it through the actual file. And maybe some of you can already tell where I'm heading with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to automate that file position to play through from start to finish to be exactly the same length as the original file that we inputted. So I'm going to turn on automation here, going to click on file position, and then that will already be selected as the open automation lane. I'm just going to go from 0 to 100% like that. Now you can hear that it's sounding pretty much like the original recording. A little bit weird, it's being sliced up. I'm getting a little bit of chorusing kind of effects, but it's sounding pretty similar to the original recording now. If I change the grain size again, you hear it getting a bit more messed up or a bit longer. Now, what we can do to make these sort of things is a lot more interesting is introduce a bit of spray. Now, what spray is going to do is it's going to say, we're not just going to take our slice, our grain, we're not just going to take it from where the playhead is, but we're going to move that about a little bit. So if I turn that all the way up, you can see it's getting pretty crazy, okay, taking these grain slices from all over the place. But if we bring that down a bit, with something like this, we can find a little sweet spot where it's still following the harmony. It's not taking things too far from either side. But it's not just sounding like we're playing through the original file now. I'm going to take a CV tool, a CV LFO, and I'm going to use that to modulate the grain size now, just to give it a little bit of movement. I'm going to choose random because I want it to be sort of selecting grain size random. I'm going to turn the rate up so it's doing it quite often. I'll just click map and I map it to the grain size. And that's sounding a bit glitchy and not great, so I'm just going to constrain the size of this from 35 to maybe 65. Maybe 65 is a bit high. Let's go 55 and 30. Let's introduce some jitter into it. Now let's see what happens if we change the shape of this. Make it a little bit smaller. Still going too short here, I think. So now we're getting this lovely effect of it's taking these grains. Maybe we can still go a bit shorter than that. With all of these things, it's going to be about finding the sweet spot for whatever you're working with. So with a piano, this is going to sound very different. With a vocal, this is going to sound very different. If it's a solo instrument, it's going to sound very different. What I'm going to do now is sort of add a little bit of post-processing. I think this might sound quite nice with a little bit of delay. So we can use Ableton's echo. Where do we find that? In delay and loop. Let's bring that in here. If I increase this percentage, it's going to spread that delay out nice and wide. Yeah, so it's just changing the timing slightly of the left and the right side, which makes it sound nice and spread. I'm going to change the filter on this. And add a little bit of reverb. Built-in reverb here on this echo is really nice. Yeah, this is getting there. I'm going to bring this back a little bit, bring this back a little bit. I want it to be a bit smoother. There we go. There we go. Now let's add one more reverb after this. Let's add the hybrid reverb after. I'm going to have that mostly dry. And we can also do things like over here in the filter section, just click on the grain and the filter. Let's change this so we have a high pass and a low pass here. Now if I bring that back in with the original file, and I'm going to bring this original file all the way down. turn this. So now we have this lovely effect, this sort of different world for these sounds to live in. That's not just simply slapping a reverb. I did put a reverb on the end, yes, I admit, but it's very mostly the dry signal. And again, with the echo, half wet, but the real beauty in this is coming from this granular technique. Maybe we can even do a little bit with the spray. So we have this phrase, so I'm going to just make it so that the spray really opens up in the middle, so it accentuates the dynamic of the movement. Yeah, that's kind of nice. Maybe a little bit too much. And another one there. And another one there. And another one here. And let's make the spray go right down right at the end so it really comes. Yeah, maybe that's nice as well at the start. Lovely. So there you have it. A quick tip using Ableton's Granulator. Big shout out to all the new people joining on Patreon. It makes a big difference. It allows me to really keep making this kind of content. So I really appreciate all of you who are over there. If you want to join Patreon, check the link in the subscription underneath this video. A couple of people on Patreon have suggested some things for some upcoming videos, including some stuff to do with ambient drums or generative drums. So I'm going to take a look at that. If you want to make some suggestions, please go ahead. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Keep making, keep exploring. Till next time.